Hi, second grade. I just wanted you guys, you can listen to the Magic Tree House at your own pace. I'm going to read 3 chapters a week. I know you guys love these books, and I still want you to be able to listen to me read them. So watch these as you want. You don't have to do any assignments with them. It's just something kind of fun we can do. So we were on Magic Tree House number 14, Day of the Dragon King. We started reading it together. We read the first chapter, but since we haven't been together in a while, I think I'm just going to start reading it again. So chapter 1 was called The Bamboo Book. So there's Jack and Annie. Annie peeked into Jack's room. Ready to go to China? She asked. Jack took a deep breath. Sure, he answered. Bring your secret library card, Annie said. I have mine in my pocket. Yep, said Jack. He opened his top dresser drawer and took out a thin wooden card. The letters M.L. on it shimmered in the light. Jack dropped the card into his backpack, then he threw in his notebook and a pencil. Let's go, said Annie. Jack pulled on his pack and followed her. What are we in for today, he wondered. Bye, Mom, said Annie as they passed their mom in the kitchen. Where are you going, she asked. China, said Annie. Great, said their mom. She winked at them. Have fun. Fun, thought Jack. He was afraid that fun wasn't quite the right word. Just wish us luck, he said as he and Annie headed out the front door. Good luck, their mother called. If only she knew we weren't pretending, Jack whispered to Annie. Yeah, said Annie, grinning. Outside, the sun shone brightly. Birds sang, crickets chirped. Jack and Annie walked up their street toward the Frog Creek woods. I wonder if the weather will be this nice in China, Annie said. I don't know. Remember, Morgan said this would be a very scary adventure, said Jack. They're always scary, said Annie, but we always meet animals who help us or people. True, said Jack. I bet we meet someone great today, said Annie. Jack smiled. He was starting to feel excited now instead of scared. Let's hurry, he said. They ran into the Frog Creek woods. They slipped between the tall trees until they came to a huge oak. Hello, came a soft voice they knew well. They looked up. Morgan was peering down from the Magic Tree House. Ready for your next mission as Master Librarian, she asked. Yes, said Jack and Annie. They grabbed the rope ladder and started up. Are we still going to China? Asked Annie when they climbed into the treehouse. Indeed, said Morgan. You're going to ancient China. Here is the title of the story you must find. She held up a long, thin strip of wood. It looked like a ruler, except it had strange writing on it instead of numbers. Long ago, the Chinese discovered how to make paper. It was one of the world's most important discoveries, said Morgan, but you're going to a time earlier than that, to a time when books were written on bamboo strips like this one. Wow, said Annie, she pointing at the figures on the bamboo. So this is Chinese writing? Yes, said Morgan. Just as we have letters, Chinese writing is made up of many characters. Each one stands for a different thing or idea. These characters are the title of an ancient Chinese legend. You must find the first writing of the legend before the Imperial Library is destroyed. Hurry, let's go, said Annie. Wait, we need our research book, said Jack. Yes, you do, said Morgan. From the folds of her robe, she pulled out a book. On the cover was the title, The Time of the First Emperor. Morgan handed the book to Jack. This research book will guide you, she said. But remember, in your darkest hour, only the old legend can save you. But we have to find it first, said Annie. Exactly, said Morgan. She handed Jack the bamboo strip and he slipped it into his pack. Jack pushed his glasses into place, then pointed at the cover of their research book. I wish we could go there, he said. The wind started to blow. The treehouse started to spin. It spun faster and faster. Then everything was still, absolutely still. Chapter 2, The Cow Herd. Oh, wow, Annie said. These clothes feel so soft. And look, I have a pocket for my secret library card. Jack opened his eyes. Their clothes had magically changed. They no longer wore jeans, t-shirts, and sneakers. Instead, they had on baggy pants, loose shirts, straw shoes, and round hats. Annie's shirt had a pocket in it. Jack saw that his backpack had become a rough cloth sack. Inside were his research book, his notebook, his library card, and the bamboo strip. Cows, said Annie, looking out the window. Jack looked out too. The treehouse had landed in a lone tree in a sunny field. Cows grazed, and a young man stood watching over them. At the edge of the field was a farmhouse. Beyond the house was a walled city. It looks so peaceful, said Annie. You can never be sure, said Jack. Remember, Pompeii looked peaceful before the volcano went off. Oh, yeah, said Annie. Let's see what the book says, said Jack. He reached in the sack and pulled out the china book. He opened it and read aloud. Over 2,000 years ago, China was ruled by its first emperor. Because he chose the dragon to be his symbol, he was called the Dragon King in China. Dragons are seen as brave and powerful creatures. Dragon King? That sounds a little scary, said Jack. I like his outfit, said Annie. Next to the writing was a picture. It showed a man wearing a rich, flowing robe with wide sleeves. He also wore a tall hat with beads hanging from it. Jack pulled out his notebook and wrote, First Emperor called Dragon King. The book we need must be in the Dragon King's library, said Annie. I bet his palace is in that city. Jack looked up. Right, he said, and that's how to get there. He pointed across the field to a dirt road that led to the walled city. Good plan, said Annie. She climbed out of the treehouse and started down the rope ladder. Jack threw the china book and his notebook into his sack. He slung the sack over his shoulder and followed Annie. When they reached the ground, they started through the field. Look, that guy's waving at us, said Annie. The man tending the cows was shouting and waving. He started running toward them. Uh-oh, what's he want, said Jack. A moment later, the man stood in their path. He was young and handsome with a kind face. Can you do me a great favor, he asked. I would be most grateful. Of course, said Annie. Give a message to the silk weaver. You will see her at the farmhouse, said the young man. Tell her to meet me here at twilight. Sure, no problem, said Annie. The young man smiled. Thank you, he said. Then he started to leave. Wait, excuse me, said Jack. Do you know where we can find the Imperial Library? A look of horror crossed the man's kind face. Why? He whispered. I just wondered, said Jack. The young man shook his head. Beware of the Dragon King, he said. Whatever you do, beware. Then he turned and ran back to his cows. Oh, man, whispered Jack. Now we know one thing for sure. What? Asked Annie. This place is not as peaceful as it seems, Jack said. All right, this is the last chapter I'm going to read for the week. Chapter 3, The Silk Weaver. Jack and Annie kept walking across the pasture toward the road. Annie stopped when they neared the farmhouse. We have to find the silk weaver and give her the message, she said. Let's do that on our way back, said Jack. I'm worried about finding the Imperial Library. What if we don't have time, said Annie. We promised, and he was so nice. Jack sighed. Okay, he said, but let's find her fast. And remember to keep your head down so no one will notice us. Jack and Annie bowed their heads as they headed toward the house. As they got closer, Jack peeked out from under his hat. An ox pulled a cart filled with hay. Men hoed the ground. Women pushed wheelbarrows piled high with grain. There, said Annie. She pointed to an open porch where a young woman was weaving cloth on a loom. That must be her. Annie ran to the silk weaver. Jack looked around to see if anyone was watching. Luckily, all the farm workers seemed too busy to notice anything. Still looking around carefully, Jack walked toward the porch. Annie was already talking to the silk weaver. What did he say? The young woman asked. Her voice was soft but strong. Her dark eyes glowed with happiness. He said you should meet him in the field at twilight, said Annie. He's so handsome. Yes, he is, the silk weaver gave Annie a shy smile. Then she reached down to a basket near her loom and picked up a ball of yellow thread. It was very brave of you to bring that message, she said. Please accept this silk thread as my thank you. She handed Annie the ball of silk. It's beautiful, said Annie. Feel. She handed it to Jack. The thread was soft and smooth. How do you make silk? Said Jack. It's made from the cocoons of silkworms, said the weaver. Really? Worms? That's neat, said Jack. Let me write that down. He reached into his sack. Please don't, said the silk weaver. The making of silk is China's most valuable secret. Anyone who steals the secret will be arrested, and the Dragon King will have him put to death. So there's her ball of silk. Oops, said Jack. He dropped the ball of silk into his sack. I think you must leave quickly, whispered the silk weaver. You have been seen. Jack looked over his shoulder. A man was pointing at them. Let's go, he said. Bye, said Annie. Good luck on your date. Thank you, the silk weaver said. Come on, said Jack. They hurried away from the silk weaver. Stop, someone shouted. Run, said Annie. And I'll read more for next week. Bye, guys. Awesome.